Hey guys, I'm coming to you from my new studio here in my new home, and it is approaching the middle of winter, and to be honest, I've been struggling a little bit in terms of trying to get settled into here, getting into a groove of making art, making videos, and trying to find an inspiration for a new direction or a direction to take. So yeah, just want to be real here, and I'm using my iPhone to take this because I'm using the reverse camera, so what you're seeing is actually in reverse. I know it's confusing, I do this sometimes, so I hope you forgive me for that as well. But in any case, I'm so glad that you are here with me today, and you probably clicked on this video because you saw the image of these gorgeous irises that you want to paint. So let's get right into the intro. These are the iris painting that we will be doing today. It's in reverse, I apologize. And just like a previous tulip video that I posted a couple of weeks ago, I'll be doing sort of a practice strokes to get the petal shapes and things like that, because I thought it'd be interesting to put some of these type of videos out, you know, just a clearer step-by-step tutorial of how I get to this final painting. So this is a really nice beginner-friendly video. If you're obsessed with iris like I am, you would love it. And probably you being in the Northern Hemisphere, if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, you will have irises blooming real soon, unlike here in the dead of winter and trying to get through this period. So anyway, I thought I'll give you also a view of this beautiful view that I am looking out here. Let me just turn that around. So yep, that's the view that I'm facing right now. And the struggle with me being in the studio is that the sun is over there on that side of the mountain. So I used to live on that side of the valley where we had sunny winter days, but we've moved to the dark side of the valley. So what's happening is I'm actually looking at the sun rather than being in the sun, and it's been very tough. It's been tough. All right, so I thought since I've had the video, the camera facing that way, to give you just a little view, a little tour of my current studio mess. So I've dumped all this stuff here so that I could have a nice clean background to film in. And yep, I've also got a window here which looks out to my garden, which is really lovely. But of course that is the killer view. And then over on this side I have sliding doors and a lovely wall and all that space for me to do workshops and whatnot. So, and I've got a lot of all that messiness here just around the corner. Anyway, thought you'd be interested on a little tour. Apologize for the shaky video. Not used to making these sort of walking vloggy type, but yeah, that's pretty. I know that is pretty and I shouldn't complain. So, all right, that's it. Let's get straight into those irises. Hey guys, so right now we are going to practice painting some bearded irises. I say practice because we're going to be doing some practice petal strokes first, and then we'll do the actual painting, all right? So these are some gorgeous bearded iris that I have gotten from this book, The Flower Color Guide, and you can find this all in the description below, links to it. So let's get going. I have two beautiful colored irises here. One is more of like a beigey, peachy tone one, and one is a purple with light tones and dark purple tones. All right, so let's get going. I recommend for us to use a bigger brush, so I'll be using my size 12 round. So size 10, size 12, or even 16, okay? And I have here my 100% cotton cold press watercolor paper by Meaden. It's a great watercolor paper at a very affordable price. You can find this in the description below with a 10% code if you buy from the Meaden Meaden website with my code Crystal10. All right, so let's begin with some basic brush strokes of the bearded iris. Okay, so I have a pool here of yellow and pink mix. Use whatever you like because we're just doing some practice. And I'm just gonna darken my paint a little bit so you can see it in the camera, but you don't have to. You can use a nice watery mix, all right? So this part is going to be all about just feeling into the brush and coming out with that fluffy petal. So I'm going to point my brush in this angle, and I'm going to be quite loose, hold my brush quite midway up. And I'm just going to make this sort of zigzaggy, petally on both sides, okay? See that? So let's try that again. Just really be loose and just move your brush in this gorgeous zigzag wavy way. If you want, you can just fill that up like that, and try to make it as organic as possible. Let's try that again. So maybe I'm going to have a different direction now. Fun, right? Okay, so obviously you can even go in there to just alter the shape if you don't like it while it's still wet, but you don't want to mess around with it too much. All right, so that's that. Now we're going to try adding some wet on wet bleeds onto it. Okay, so I'm just creating one more here, slightly smaller one this time, and I'm going to add a little bit of maybe purple into, just going to charge up some purple into this corner here, and I'm going to take some permanent rose, very saturated one, and just let that drop it in here and there. Pretty, pretty, pretty. Let's try that again. Let's do another petal. Okay, so charge it up. Ooh. Okay, so this time I want to make it more watery, okay, so that it's really light, almost water. And this time I'm going to choose a gamboge or a orange or dark yellow. I'm just going to charge up. Just see how I'm just like kind of like pressing like a little button. And yellow is a really good color to sort of spread out. And just notice and feel how that feels. Just admire that for what it is. How gorgeous, right? So pretty. All right, it went a bit too far, so I just went a bit too much of the yellow. You don't have to, but it's all about just feeling into this whole wet and wet play. Okay, so now I'm going to choose a different color. So I'm getting some yellow now, just yellow, more yellow than pink. And then you can just have fun here. So with the yellow, sort of like this curvy shaped petal, I'm going to see what that looks like if I drop maybe some orange into it. And maybe I can just drop some in the corners as well. And I can turn my brush around. Actually, no, I won't use this brush. I will get a brush that is, you know, not painted like this, or you can use a credit card, and you can even just drag out some of the veins from the concentrated part of the petal. How fun is that? Okay, now that we've got that petal shape going, we're going to attempt to paint, let's paint two irises here, okay? I won't make it so big. So the iris, the bearded iris have a few parts, okay? And then I call it like, it's almost like a face. So there's the head with the hair, there's the beard, and those are the ears. And that's really the basic structure of the iris. So I like to start with like the left ear, the right ear. So let's do it. So I'll just start the corner and just gonna make a little fluffy ear here. Okay. And then maybe change it different color, add a bit of yellow, and I'm just gonna do that curly whirly thing as a meet down here as well. So you meet into like a little point here. And then from here, grab a bit of gamboge or yellow. So that's like the nose of the iris. Okay, so we'll just stop here. And this is kind of like step one. You create the left ear, the right ear, and then the nose. So we're just going to do that again. Okay, so I'm just going to create left. Just keep practicing. And it doesn't even have to, it can be of odd shape, and it doesn't have to be, try not to make it symmetrical. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, don't make the left side and right side totally same. So I'm just using yellow this time, and I'm dabbing it so that I'm just leaving a bit of white space here and there. And now I'm going to pull out the beard, And I can use maybe a slightly darker tone. So I'm just going to add a bit of purple, a bit more permanent rose. So a more saturated kind of color and make that difference. So I'm just going to pull out a bigger beard here. So that same fluffy, cool. I like that. And then you can add the ears. So for the ears, maybe just a touch of, I'm adding a little bit of dragon's blood here, which is basically like a dark red into that same mixture. And for the ears, the same thing. You're just gonna pull out a curly whirly sort of like on one side, and you can do it onto the other side like this. And then from here, from this basic wet iris, you can intensify anything you like. You can add anything. So I like to try maybe adding a little bit of indigo into the middle here. And you can add a little bit of maybe permanent rose to the top here. Don't go too overboard because you don't want it to be super, super colorful. And then you can get a bit more of that gamboge and just drop it into the middle to just intensify that yellow. That's it. That's your structure of the iris. So from here, we're going to create an actual painting of the iris. I'm going to combine this one and this one into one painting. All right, let's do it. I am going to use my 7 by 10 cold press 100% cotton medium watercolor paper and my size 10 brush. And so it's going to be a cute little iris painting, nothing too huge, nothing too loose. Sometimes, you know, it's good to challenge myself, I'm saying, to paint small. All right, so let's start with this one here. If you are interested in this, to find out what the reference photo looks like and you paint along with me, consider joining my Patreon, because a part of the Patreon perk is that I actually upload the reference photo to all these tutorials that I do on YouTube. And also on my Patreon, you get early access to the paintings as well as, early access to the videos as well as, what is the other thing? Of course, ad-free. That's just the introductory tier. And then as we go up, there's also bonus tutorials in the higher tiers, as well as a live Zoom that I do every month. I call the Uncomplicated Artist Movement Inner Circle Meetup, where we dive into all the different beautiful topics of watercolor art. And we get to meet and we get to paint together, we get to hang out. It's really awesome. Okay, so I'm mixing yellow with pink to get a lovely peach. Very watery mix because I want the base layer to be nice and light and fluffy. Starting in the bottom left corner here, I'm going to pull out a couple of these fluffy fluff. So when I'm left to my own device, I do paint quite fast. So feel free to pause if you feel that I've gone a bit too fast. But just curly whirly, kind of like really fluffy, nice petals. And that's why I love painting irises, because I just love painting these fluffy petals, you know, compared to all other paintings that are very more structured. I just do love that. So I grabbed some very, very vibrant orange to just drop it into the middle of my two super light fluffy petals, and I'm just going to continue to pull out the beard now and just letting the orange bleed down, pulling out one ear and then the other ear like this, okay? I'm gonna grab some yellow ochre or burnt umber and just dropping that into the edges of my petals to create some fun and depth and variation. While this fella is wet, I'm going to grab my green, which is a Sap Green indigo mix that I have lying around that I sprayed down. I'm just going to pull. Oh God, that's a little bit too cool, so I'm just going to add a bit of green gold and just pull it again down as a stem, and I'm just going to touch it a little bit. It's not bleeding too much, but I think that works for my first iris there. All right, there we go. All right, very quickly moving on to my second iris. So I'm going to add more pink to this current mix here. Tad of mineral violet, which is a purple. Maybe a touch of cerulean blue. Touch. Okay. Let's create fluffy hairdo using my reference photo to inspire, but I don't have to follow it to a T. A bit of gamboge or dark yellow or an orange. Let's make it lighter. So I just took some water and I'm just making the petals grow a bit bigger. Okay, now I'm gonna go real dark with the beard. So lots of mineral violet, or you can use dioxazine purple. And I'm gonna get burnt umber to neutralize that a bit, but still have that depth. And maybe some dragon's blood and a bit of permanent rose. All right, more burnt umber. I get very excited when I do this mix, okay? So pulling it down, you get that gorgeous dark maroon. So this one's kind of looming over this fella. I am running out of dioxazine purple. It's such an important color to make this really very deep, valued flower, because you need the value sometimes to give your painting contrast and interest. Am I happy with that? Okay, I'm in the ugly stage of the painting now. As you can tell, I'm feeling a little bit awkward and weird. Actually, I'm going to get a bit of Payne's Gray and I'm just going to even darken a little bit more. I like that. And the edges of this. Okay, grabbing a back of a brush or a credit card or something, just pulling, scraping a bit of the veins out into the petals. I'm going to get my very saturated permanent rose and I'm going to drop it into the top of these petals here, a bit underneath. And I'm going to do the same draggy thing, but this time dragging from up to down. So you can really play and have fun here. Lots of wet on wet action, wet on wet bleedy action. Okay, I just really love how this is coming out. So this is obviously the more dominant flower in this. Pulling out a stem. pretty. All right, so in my composition, I also have some, I'm gonna put one bud here from this plant. Actually, the bud should come from this fella. All right, let's do a bud for this. What should I do? The bud should be down here. Okay, I'm gonna do a bud for this fella here. I'm gonna grab that dark mixture and do that. Super easy. You saw that just 2 strokes connecting with a stem. That's all for this one. And for this fella here, I'm gonna do, now I need to find that light mix again. So yellow with a bit of pink, super transparent. Few just simple brush strokes, touching a bit of that green, and then just touching dropping a bit of indigo into my greens and dropping a touch of that orange into the top of this fella here to give it a bit of consistency. Okay, so I am happy with this layer. I'm gonna leave it to dry and then we're gonna come back to do just some final details to just bring everything together. And we're back. The painting is nice and dry and I really actually love how it's turning out at this point. All right, we're just gonna add some tiny details to just finish off the painting and just make it pop a little bit more. Okay, first thing I feel like doing is just gonna add some lovely little yellow marks on this dark petal. So I'm using cadmium yellow, and my cadmium yellow is pretty opaque. So if I get a nice saturated brush with my little brush here, I am able to cover the dark. So I'm just doing that. Just a little bit of yellow marks on either side of this center. And some here as well, which I see on my reference photo. Maybe just some at the bottom as well. Yeah. All right, so with that same brush, I'm just gonna lightly put some marks on this main petal as well. See what that looks like. Okay, so at this point of the painting, I don't know if you've seen some of my crazier iris paintings before on my Instagram. It's where you can really get creative and you don't even need to follow the painting here, okay? But then just for this video, I thought, you know, we'll just do like a little classic painting of the iris. So I'm using a very saturated brush load of permanent rose. And I'm just going to create some lines from the edges downwards into the petal. Okay, that one's a little bit too dry. So I'm just adding a bit more water here. Just to give a little bit of dimension and oomph to the whole thing. All right, lovely. Okay, so and I'm just gonna leave it at that. No, actually, no, I won't leave it at that. I'm just gonna add some of that here. Maybe a bit of Payne's gray into this one here. I like that. And then moving on to this lighter colored one, I'm gonna grab a bit of burnt umber. That will be my shadowy color. Not so saturated, but just like a milky consistency. And I'm just gonna outline just a little bit of the outside of this light
just marks here and there. Again, using my reference photo. And then we're going to just wash off some of that pigment. And what I'm going to do is sort of like from that, the dark marks that I've created on the edges of the petal, just flick inwards some vein lines. Do one bit of that up there too. Dilute with water a bit. Okay, and then I'm just gonna grab a bit of Scarlet Lake to mix in with that bit of the orange to just put a bit more of a darker center here. And I just feel like this fella needs a dark or some highlight. So I'm just getting some of that greenish yellow. Put that there. And that's it. That is my completed iris painting. I do love it. I hope you enjoyed painting along. There you have it. I really hope you enjoyed painting along with me. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell notification if you want to get updates on all the videos that I post. I have tons of tutorials here on my channel, and I also have a Patreon. So if you want to join me on Patreon, we paint live once a month. I've got bonus tutorials on there as well, and it's a great way for you to support me on my channel to give me a bit of motivation and direction as to where I'm going to take this channel. And of course, one more thing I want to add is that I am doing a 5-week-long course this September with Pennsylvania Art Studio. It's going to be 5 weeks live on Zoom, week after week, 2.5 hours each week, and it's going to be all about recreating vintage florals through watercolor, the stuff that I love. So yeah, check out all these links below in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.